Okay, so we are going to identify all six trig ratios for the right triangle. So the first thing you want to do is label your sides. So you have angle T. So this is angle T, and the hypotenuse, well, I always start with the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the side opposite of the right angle. So 65 is your hypotenuse. So I'm going to label that. And then adjacent to angle T is 56. I'm going to label that ADJ. And then opposite is 33. So now we're going to do all six ratios for angle T. So starting with the sine. The sine of angle T is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. That's 33 over 65. The sister is cosecant. So cosecant is the reciprocal of sine, which would be 65 over 33. And then you have your cosine. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So 56 over 65. The sister to cosine is secant. So we flip that ratio. And then we also have tangent, which is opposite over adjacent. And we have cotangent, which is adjacent over opposite. And that is your six. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. That's not right. Back up, back up. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, which is 33 over 56, not 65. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. And cotangent is adjacent over opposite. So those are your six ratios for angle T.
I have a question.
Yes,
So when you're labeling it, you always start with the hypotenuse?
I do, because I think that's the side that does not change regardless. The hypotenuse is always opposite of your right angle. Adjacent and opposite can change. So for example, if I moved angle T to here, angle T can't be here because that's my right angle. If I moved it here, this would still be the hypotenuse, but these two would switch. This would become adjacent and this would be opposite. But I start with the hypotenuse. That's the side that's always going to be opposite of your right angle. Adjacent means next to. So the side next to the angle is adjacent, and then across would be your opposite.
Okay. Thanks.
So we're actually going to work on some of the homework 2 questions today. Homework 2 is due on Wednesday. So we did one question on Friday. We're going to do 2 more questions today. Homework 2 is due on Wednesday. You're going to submit that through Canvas, and I'll talk more about that here shortly at the end of class. But I am going to put up the link for you to submit your homework, for you to submit homework through Canvas. Since it's due Wednesday and we are currently slated to be virtual through Wednesday. So we'll talk about that here shortly. If you need help with how to submit your document, stay on at the end of class. I know last year, so there are several apps that you can use with your phone. If you have an iPhone, you can use the Notes app and it'll convert it to a PDF for you. And if you have the Canvas app, you can just submit it, quite easily that way. But if you need help with that, let me know at the end of class and we can talk about some ways to do that. And if you don't have an iPhone, I can submit a video that I found on YouTube on how to do that with an Android. Okay, so let's look at question number 47. So I'll give you a second to, you don't have to copy down the unit circle, but to copy down question 47. So what it's asking us to do is find the exact value of the 6 trig functions. So what it's asking us for is the sine, the cosine, the tangent, the cosecant, the secant, and the cotangent for the angle 2 pi over 3. 2 pi over 3 is an angle on your unit circle. So 2 pi over 3 is equivalent to 120 degrees. So this is what we're looking at on the unit circle. So we have to list all 6 trig ratios. Now, the unit circle, cosine and sine, cosine is your x, sine is your y. So we already have 2 of the 6 just from looking at the unit circle. You don't have to do anything to find sine and cosine. If it's on the unit circle, it's one of the values that's provided. So we're going to start off with the sine and cosine. So actually, I'm going to start off with cosine. So cosine of 2 pi over 3. Then we have to do the sine of 2 pi over 3, the tangent of 2 pi over 3. And then we're going to do the secant of 2 pi over 3, the cosecant of 2 pi over 3, and the cotangent of 2 pi over 3. Now, keeping in mind that cosine is x and sine is y. So I automatically know my cosine and sine, so I can fill those 2 in right away. So the cosine is -1/2, and the sine is positive √3 over 2. So now I'm going to find the secant and cosecant. So to find the secant, secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So secant of 2 pi over 3 is going to be the reciprocal of cosine. So -1 over 2, if I flip that, it becomes -2 over 1, or just -2. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So that flips to 2 over the square root of 3. Now we cannot have a square root in our denominator, so we have to rationalize that. And we get 2 square root of 3 over the square root of 9, because 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 is a perfect square. So it becomes 2 square root of 3 over 3. And that is my cosecant. Now the tangent of 2 pi over 3, that equals the sine divided by the cosine. So it's one of our quotient. Tangent and cotangent take the most amount of work. So I always do those two last. So I'm going to take my sine. Sine is √3/2. And divide that by the cosine, which is -1/2. We do our keep, change, flip. And we get -√3/1, which is just -√3. Cotangent. I had to make myself a little bit more space. Cotangent of 2 pi over 3 equals cosine over sine. So cosine is -1/2 divided by +√3/2. And again, we do our keep, change, flip. Except this time, we have to rationalize because we end up with a square root in our denominator. And when I multiply it, we get -1 square root of 3 over the square root of 9, which simplifies to just -√3/3. And that is all 6 of our ratios. So in the homework, you have to do that for other angles. So you would identify that angle on the unit circle, start with sine and cosine, and then flip them to get your sisters, secant and cosecant. And then tangent and cotangent, you have to divide. All right, so I wanted to do one more question from homework 2. And that's number 77, where it says find the exact value of the 6 trig functions. And the first thing you want to do is identify what quadrant are we on in the end? What quadrant are we in on the unit circle? So looking at this point, I'm noticing that X is negative and Y is positive. There is only one quadrant where X is negative and Y is positive. So in the chat, if you know which quadrant we're in, let me know. Okay, I got one person that is correct. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Good. We're in quadrant 2. Good job. So we're in quadrant 2. So this is where my triangle is. Because the unit circle is just triangles. So this is my triangle. It's in quadrant 2. And my x is -3. The y is 4. And the first thing we need to do is figure out the hypotenuse of this triangle. So we're going to use Pythagorean theorem, because Pythagorean theorem is what you use when you have two sides of a right triangle and you need to know the third side. So my hypotenuse is what we're trying to figure out. So okay. Let's find C. So -3 squared is 9. 4 squared is 16. 25. And then if you take the square root, we get that C is 5. So now I know all three sides. So remember, -3, x is adjacent, 4 is opposite, and 5 is your hypotenuse. So this is just like the Bell work. You just have to find the hypotenuse. But I want you to take about 2 minutes and try to see if you can write your 6 ratios. Going back to the Bell work as example, if you need help with that, but we need to find the cosine, and I'm going to call this theta. And then we need to find its sister. And then after that, we're going to move on to the sine and its sister. And then tangent and its sister. So take about a couple minutes, see if you can fill in those 6 ratios, and then we will go through them together. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill it in. So first of all, I know that in quadrant 2, my cosine is going to be negative because x is negative. So these two are negative. Okay, so let's just keep in mind that these are the only two that are negative. Our cosine, because x is negative, and if cosine is negative, its sister secant is also going to be negative. So cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse. So that would be -3/5. And its sister would be -5/3. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Sine is positive, so is its sister cosecant. Tangent, opposite over adjacent. And then cotangent would be adjacent over opposite. And that would be your 6 ratios. Any questions about how we completed this assignment or this question, not the assignment? So homework 2 will be submitted digitally. I'm going to add a link to Canvas for you to upload it It has to be one page. Well, I'm sorry, not one page, but one document. So if it's several pages, you have to make it one PDF document. And if you're not sure how to do that, I can look for the videos that I put up last year on how to submit that. I think I think I know I found a video for Apple and one for Android. So I can find that and submit that. If you don't have any questions, have a great day. I will see you in class tomorrow. And that's it. Homework 2 is due on Wednesday.